Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
Joe O'Byrne is a writer, actor and artist based in Bolton, Greater Manchester, who has been producing his own work for stage around the North West, often to great acclaim, for some years. I first came across him when his play The Bench was included in the Replay Festival at Manchester's Library Theatre in 2009. But over the last few years, he seems to have blossomed, with several plays currently or soon to go on national tours. These include his ghost story, The Haunting of Blaine Manor, and 4 of his Tales from Paradise Heights, a series of plays, including The Bench, that share characters and a location with interlocking stories. I spoke to him while he was in the midst of pushing his work to more theatres around the country, and I asked him why this sudden flurry of activity has happened now.
I think you get lessons in life, I think, to a certain extent. And, I'm sort of messing with film, messing with art, all this kind of thing. And theatre as well, as you know. And I think it was the passing of my father that gave me a kick up the backside, as it were. And I thought, right, I'm not going to take no for an answer now. I need to start moving. And I've grown this new much more determined. If I'm like a dog with a bone now, I won't let go.
Yeah.
And it is notoriously hard to get into theatres, but I'm one of those guys that once I start knocking on their door, I don't go away. And eventually they're like, okay, well, let's have a look at something. And then I bring something, and then they're like, oh, why didn't you tell us this before? And I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But it's great. Well, I know how busy they are anyway. Now there's a lot of stuff coming in. But I'm building up some great relationships with theatres now. And, of course, that's all built on the quality of the work that you're bringing in and the fact that, it'll entertain audiences. And so everybody's winning. Yeah, everybody's winning. And it's still difficult getting into certain theatres, but I'm getting there. And I'm getting more savvy, as it were,
Yeah.
I'm getting to know the game really well. And these theatres are, everyone that I've worked in, the management, the staff, they've all been outstanding. And good times, yeah. Very good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, the map's still rolling out. On the end of this call, I'll be making another dozen calls there to get into the next lot, So, I'm hoping to be around for a while and to keep bringing and working with magnificent performers to tell stories, stories. It's all good.
I hope so. But as you know, I follow you on various social media and you're posting pictures from some of these theatres and you're enjoying looking at the theatre buildings, aren't you? You're in some amazing buildings, aren't you?
The history of them and, it's just, you're living the dream. You're stepping on stages that have been, some stages that are 190 years, and it's just like, living the dream and you feel it. You do feel it. And I really, really appreciate every second that I'm in those venues. It's, I'm very, very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. But, wonderful, wonderful.
One of the ones that's going out again is the first one I ever saw, The Bench.
That's right.
And that's one of your Tales from Paradise Heights. Do you want to just talk about what Paradise Heights is?
Yes, Paradise Heights is a fictional community I created probably about 15 years ago now. When I first, in fact, longer than that, it's about 20 years from the very first story I told, which was the monologue, the Anne Frank Morgan. I just thought, if I'm going to write something else, I'll set it in the same community. I can include some of the characters he talked about, he was with, or I could include a presence of Frank. He might not be there, or he might be there in some of the stories. But it's very much they're an interconnected series of stories on film and theatre and poetry and song, for that matter.
And a novel as well, isn't there?
Yes, there's a novel. There's a novel of The Bench on Amazon.com.
Yeah.
In the desert storm of books that's on there. You'll find it. It's there. And it got some great reviews. Martina Cole reviewed it. She loved it, actually.
Wow.
Martina. Yeah, so that was nice of her. And it's a series of interconnected stories. And I wanted to write them in such a way that whatever story you saw first, you didn't feel you'd missed a load of stuff. It's its own story, but it's got these avenues and back streets that connect to the next stories. So once you see more than one, you start to say, that's the person they were talking about. This is the place from this. That's that incident that occurred. All that kind of thing, and all linked. and they've been called, but like a Canterbury Tales for Today is what they've been called. Or a Chronicle of Broken Britain, depending on which way you look at it. Yeah. It might be a Chronicle of Broken Britain, but there's a lot of humour in there as well, the way we handle humour. Gallows humour or whatever it is, it's how we get through life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, got a range of really eclectic characters. I don't believe in writing parts for actors where they haven't got something to do. I want to give them something to get their teeth into. And yeah, very much that, really. Yeah.
I look back at my review of that first one that I saw, and I said I could see some possible influences of Jim Cartwright and Jimmy McGovern in there. Is that fair, do you think?
Yeah, really. I mean, we all grow from somewhere. We're all influenced by stuff. You can't reinvent the wheel, etc., etc. So yeah, I love their work. Absolutely love their work. And Jim Cartwright even tried to get one of my series made for TV a long time ago. And that was really such a shame that we were almost there. We had Pete Postlethwaite attached. It was a 4-part TV series coming to ITV, and then a new guy took over at the top. And it's like everything gets pulled, production hell, all that sort of stuff. But Jim's a lovely guy, and he was a big fan of what I was writing back then as well. And he's been to a couple of these productions as well, so it's really nice. But having said that, obviously you want your own voice to be coming through as well. And that's what then, distinguishes us, as writers. We've all got our different ways of doing it. And yeah, I'm loving what I'm doing very much so, yeah. It's lovely to get those comparisons. It's lovely to get the comparisons. My favourite is the Salford Score Stacey. I love that.
That's not bad either.
Yeah, that's lovely. I love that.
These characters, and I know your job is something that a lot of people would think was quite challenging, the sorts of people you work with. Yes. Does that feed into the characters that you write about?
I think back at the beginning it probably did a little bit. Yes, certain characteristics and things that you see, because obviously with the people that I work for the community service, so I work with what most people outside that business would consider bad guys, that sort of stuff. And we don't get to work with the particular. I don't get to work with Frank Morgans and stuff like that. They're nowhere near that bad at all. In fact, they're not bad. Yeah. They've either come into a bit of bad luck, or they've done things we've done as we're growing up, fights or whatever on the streets. And the difference between mine and your time, David, is that there was no cameras about back then and all that sort of stuff. So these just these out. There he is. Let's just get him. So it's the way the way the dice rolls, and I find the job really enjoyable because I work with such an array of lads from different sides of life, etc. And I don't know what they're dealing with at home, what they're coming from, what they might be causing at home. I don't know, but during my time with them, I'm just trying to get. Yes, we've got a job to do. As such as working in the community, we need to get certain things done. But I like to talk a lot, and I always leave myself open with them that if they ever want to talk about anything in confidence, it helps to get it out. There's a lot of mental health problems out there today, loads. And Eric from the bench, he embodies a lot of that kind of thing. And as we know, suicide rates are right up there. So every week, without fail, I'll talk to the lads at the beginning of the day. So anybody with mental health issues, I'm trying to get away from it being this stigma that it's weak if I talk about it. And to the point where I had one of the hardest guys there, big lad, strong side type, who stood up a couple of weeks ago and said, I'm loving these talks and I'm going to tell you guys what I do now, what I, from my point of view. And to put it in a nutshell, he prepared everything to commit suicide. He was going to commit suicide. And he just had this epiphany moment where he went, no. His wife didn't even know. And he just went to get help. And he said it's the best thing he ever did. And each week he shares with the group stuff that he's been talking about. I don't mean details. Yeah. I mean sort of what help he's been getting and how it really works and how it flowers. And it's not as stigmatized as they all think. And we get a lot of good, strong feedback in the group on that now. So that's just as important as the discipline of the job. we don't know what's going on in our lives, and just want to help where you can.
Yeah.
I mean, we all get mental health at some point. I think it's part of being human. And it's how you deal with them. You know,
yeah.
Just keeping going, staying positive.
Do you think it's important that you get these sorts of working class voices on stage?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm trying not to get political. I mean, I do write a lot of political stuff on myself on social media, and because I do think we're living in very, very hard times and oppressive times from our current government. Which I won't get to anything more political than that, because once we start on that, David, it's dangerous. We might never get out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I've always believed in justice, fair play, and all that, and I don't think there's a lot of that about in government at the moment. And I think right down at the bottom of the pile here, we're the ones that suffer the most, and that's always been the case, in my view, with this particular government. So I like to be a voice underneath all that. Yes, I do. Yeah.
In the past, there was a trend of plays back in the 1990s where he was billed poverty porn, where it was for the middle classes in London to look at the working classes and feel better than them, and it was fairly miserable, but a lot of it. But there's so much more to it. There's so much humour in working class life, isn't there?
It's really important to find that. You can't just grip somebody by the throat for 2 hours and keep squeezing. It's no one wants to be sat down watching that kind of thing, or certainly I wouldn't. And that's what comes through with the characters. And, you take these ordinary characters and put them in extraordinary situations. I mean, you'll know as well, I like to have a thread of the supernatural that come through this. So I've got ghosts and angels living in this area. That adds a certain other flexibility to scenes that you're writing, again, they're a constant feed, like Shirley the angel, who pops up in more than one of the stories. Connie the ghost, who pops up as a ghost in one story in the bench, and then in the next one, Roink, you see how he died, what happened, and all that sort of stuff. And again, without feeling you've missed anything, it just makes you want to. Next time I see that subtitle, "A Tale from Paradise Heights," and I go, "What? Tell about that." I always give them the money's worth. That's my belief. I don't like writing predictable, as it were.
Yeah. Well, you went full ghost story with Haunting of Blaine Manor, which is another one that's out on the road still, which has been a remarkable success. But it's not easy to do ghost stories on stage. Apart from Woman in Black, it's not always worked, has it? So how did you make it work?
No. Well, this one is very much. There's a couple of things I wanted to do. First and foremost, obviously, I wasn't going to try to create any ghostly effect on stage. I think it can fall flat, and that could bring the whole story down. So to me, it was important to build a really good atmosphere, the tension, the building, etc., etc. And I also wanted to pay homage to Hammer horror. I also loved a lot of those Hollywood glamour films from the 50s. So, I had a character that's American who's the main lead in the role of a guy that doesn't believe in ghosts. But I also wanted the fourth wall to be broken in a way visually, not through audio or correspondence, where there's a lot of the time where the cast are looking out on the audience through either a window or looking at a painting or whatever it is, a pentagram, all this sort of stuff. And it just pulls the audience into the narrative then. And they feel like they're in it. And the most important thing to me was to create a soundscape that would really send shivers down your spine and keep you on the edge of your seat and jumping out of it at certain points as well. And this does all of that. And we've had people see it 5 or 6 times and following us around, bringing their friends. And it's kind of like the Rocky Horror, but without music, obviously, and all that sort of stuff. But all the sort of stuff you'd expect to see in a haunted house story, it's all there. There's a great history in it as well. We touch on witchcraft, madness, all that kind of thing. And the characters, the archetypes very much of the Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Peter Cushing. So you feel you're watching a black and white horror film on stage. That's what I wanted to create. And tipping the hat to brilliant writers like M.R. James, nods to The Haunting, there's not a couple of nods to the Haunting film itself, which was the first film I saw as a child that frightened the life out of me. But I loved it. At the same time, that thrill, there's a thrill in being scared, isn't there?
Yeah.
There really is. And I wanted to scare the audience and thrill them at the same time. And this is doing that. We've had nothing but magnificent reviews for Blaine Manor. I'm really, really pleased with how that's going. Yeah. The new one in black, which is great, good.
I believe the first film I was taken to see was Bambi, which is also quite horrific as a child, but apparently it was okay. I don't remember.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. Traumatizing.
But Blaine Manor, it started on the fringe and has just got bigger and bigger. I look back at Martin Thomason reviewed it for us back in 2016 at the King's Arms in Salford, which is a not particularly illustrious room over a pub. And he commented then on how beautiful the set was. He said he wanted that leather armchair in his house.
Yeah.
That sort of attention to detail you don't normally see in a fringe production, do you? You just use a couple of chairs or something. So
exactly.
That's important to you, is it?
Yeah. I want to create that atmosphere, the mise en scène. It's got to look right, feel right, and the set itself is a character. Just a character. Within it, when it's dark, when it's light, it's all part of the scenario. Yeah, and little gags with rocking chairs and that. It's nice to be able to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a painter as well, I suppose the visual is as important as the words, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, if people visit the site, talesfromparadisesites.com, you'll see pages for each of the productions. And the Haunting of Blaine Manor, some of the imagery we've got there is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Photographers love coming following us, and I'm very fortunate to have 3 photographers that come quite regularly. Shay Rowan, Karen McBride, the brilliant Karen McBride, and Darren McGinn. In fact, all 3 of them are just magnificent. And if I could just say something on Darren McGinn, very underrated, Darren. He's a great digital artist. He's a fabulous trailer builder, all this sort of stuff. And he's got a keen eye and a keen feel for the script, to the point that whenever I complete a script, Darren's great, he reads it and gets the vibe. And he knows where my headspace is, and then we get together, and it works really well to convey the whole theme of whatever show it's going to be. So Darren's an integral part of Tales from Paradise Nights, as is Justin Wetherill, my composer and sound effect designer. I mean, I remember my original sound designer read The Haunting of Blaine Manor and was too disturbed to do production. They were frightened. They were having nightmares. So I'm getting nightmares off the script, and I can't do this. I'm really sorry. I said, well, that's great. I said, I can use that to help promote the show, but I've had to get a new sound designer because it's too scary. And I was lucky to get Justin Wetherill apply, and he's just utterly brilliant, Justin. I mean, all the sound effects that you hear in Blaine Manor, which are incredibly creepy, all sorts of strange noises. They're us. We went over to a sound studio in Sheffield with Justin, and we all went mad for the afternoon. And it's just brilliant. It frightens me. So yeah, Justin's great, and Darren. So yeah, kudos to both of those. They're brilliant.
Yeah, I think theatre photography is something that's probably underrated, because I get sent a lot of photographs for reviews and things.
Yeah.
And I know how difficult it is to get that in the temperamental lighting of a stage, and they're stunning, some of them, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are, and it's that kind of imagery that's helping us get into places like Buxton Opera House, Crewe Lyceum, and I'm on the verge, fingers crossed, because the manager of Blackpool Grand asked me for some imagery to go with what I've been sending. I sent it up, and he went, "Oh my God, this looks wonderful." So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to get something there as well. I'll let you know, David, if we take it.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you said not getting political, but one of the theatres that you've nearly got into a couple of times has just this week declared that it's going dark, Oldham Coliseum. So
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
3 different times we've had dates there, and 3 times, one through coronavirus, one through the passing of the Queen, and finally it was just not meant. It was just not meant to be to come to the Coliseum, but I'm really hoping it survives. I'm hoping it survives, but it's looking particularly grim. And this is just another classic example of a town that is slowly being pounded into the ground. And this farcical notion of levelling up. And there was the classic opportunity to save theatre. And no, not interested. What we know, unfortunately, this particular party aren't that interested in the arts. So there you go.
Yeah, well, historically, yeah. But the Paradise Heights ones that are going on tour, you've got The Bench, as we mentioned before. You've got Diane's Deli, Strawberry Jack, and I'm Frank Morgan. So what stories do they tell?
Well, right. Well, the interesting one about Diane's Deli is it's set in Paradise Heights, and there's reference to all you see characters from the other stories. But the thread of this is a lovely guy who's set up his cafe. He's getting on in life in the Heights, and he's quite a character within the Heights. Irish lad, nice guy. And you slowly start to realise that, oh my God, this fella's got a hell of a past. And he's basically an IRA guy on the run. And what he's done, either subconsciously or deliberately, is he's rebuilt a cafe almost down to the tiniest detail where he met his major love of his life when he was over in Northern Ireland. A cafe that was ultimately destroyed in the turmoil that was going on over there. I don't want to give any more away about that because there are some terrific twists and turns, but he's dealing now with a particularly aggressive and inquiring detective that has stumbled across something, and he's onto Sean Ginty, the guy that runs the cafe. But there's also a link back to the inevitable Frank Morgan. Right. And that link goes back couple of decades and that, so you hear a lot about Frank in there as well. And it's a really tight story. And the ghost pops up, all that kind of thing. It's all there. But again, it's had great reviews, and it's a good story. It's a very, very good story. And I'm delighted that that's coming back this year. Absolutely delighted. In fact, after we launched The Bench last night in Stafford, and it couldn't have gone any better. We took the roof off the place. It was amazing. Absolutely. I'm so delighted that we just went down the storm. And I'm already in chats with them this morning about bringing Diane's Deli now. And they want more Paradise Heights, which is great. So Diane's Deli will be going there, I'm pretty sure. But it's also coming to the venues that you've seen there. We're coming to the Epstein Theatre. We're coming to the Workington's Carnegie Theatre, great historic building. We're coming to the Platform, really unusual theatre space, fabulous space in Morecambe. I can't remember the other one now. But anyway, they're on the website, Paradise Heights. So they're on there. So that's that one. It's a really good pot boiler. It's the BBC Writers' Room describes it as 5 minutes of heaven meets. Oh God, I can't remember the other one. Sunday Bloody Sunday. Really good blood pounding drama, thrilling drama with some great comedy interlaced throughout it, sardonic humour and all that, very, very West Coast Irish kind of type of humour, isn't there? Which is kind of the flavour at the minute, isn't it? With Martin McDonagh.
Yeah.
It's, that's very much the flavour, Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell, it looks like they're going to do well again, doesn't it? So great. Yeah. That might be good timing, actually. There's Deli coming. Then Strawberry Jack, again, this is a story of a doorman who was inadvertently involved in the death of the guy that's a ghost in The Bench. So again, there's a link there. He's quite disfigured. He's the Cyclops of Paradise Heights. He's lost an eye as a child in a particularly horrific accident, and it's left him with a mark on his face, and everybody calls him Strawberry Jack. But he's also well known as Frank Morgan's number one doorman on his estate, but he's also kind of Frank's henchman as well. And what you discover with this guy, we join him where he's kind of on the downhill slide now. He's not the powerful force he used to be. He's not as feared. And the story is all set around Frank's club, the Ace of Spades, which is referred to in the other stories, and you finally get to come to the Ace of Spades. This is the Ace of Spades, right? That kind of thing. And you get to meet the other characters that have been discussed, Deaf Freddy, etc. Another one of Frank's hard men. And it's a story of the guy who's done something to save a girl, Jack. He's going home for the club one night. And there's an incident, an attempted rape going on in the back street, and he stops it. But he stops it in a particularly brutal way, the way that Jack works. And he's going to make sure this guy doesn't get up, that kind of thing. And then he looks after the girl, gets her to the hospital, carries her through the streets, all this. And she, in and out of her consciousness, sees this beast of a man, frightens her at first, but then he's there for her when she's waking up at the hospital. There's kind of a Beauty and the Beast tale as well that's going on within it. So there's that fairy tale element that I really like. And, of course, Jack inadvertently has crippled the son of another local gangster. And all hell is about to break loose because of what he's done. It's him. And think the walls are closing in. And at the same time, poor old Jack is dealing with the man that's brought him up, an uncle. Well, not a real uncle, a guy that looks after him, who has developed dementia in his later age. So he's dealing with all sorts of problems, and they all come together. And again, in a great mythical tale with fabulous reviews. So Strawberry Jack will go down well. And of course, I'm Frank Morgan Rewired. We had to have this, the one-man show. And it's a dark, twisted fairy tale, along with all the stuff that Frank has done, how it's gotten to where he is, the way his mind works. And it's a proper actor's gym, that story. Because once I step out, it's, there's an interval, but 2 1-hour acts, and the audience are just gripped to the point that they're terrified of looking away. But I've had great fun doing Frank. I think it's got some fantastic reviews. Macbeth meets King Lear, all that sort of stuff, which is wonderful. And I do enjoy playing that character because I think he's the direct opposite of me. I'm a teddy bear, me. And I just get to be a bad guy. It's great. But yeah, that's another strong story. The story starts where Frank is barricaded in the Ace of Spades. And he's wounded. He's heavily wounded, staggering about the place as everything starts to open up. And you're wondering why? What's going on here? Why are we barricaded in Frank's club with him? And why is he acting like this? This is a bit weird, and all that. And it's a gripping story, yeah. So yeah, those are the stories there. Yeah, that's what they're about.
Yeah, Frank Morgan's a character that sort of, even when he's not there, he sort of haunts all the stories. He's like Cafferty in the Ian Rankin's books. He's a presence, and he's sort of like the opposite number,
right across the community.
Yeah. But it must be like you say, you're such a nice guy. He's it must be fun to put on the mantle of somebody who's so different.
I've got a first review in from last night, and I've terrified the reviewer. As Frank, Joel Bird's performance is magnificently terrifying. So I don't even go, yeah, I like that. Good. But yeah, he's loved the whole show, and 6 actors at the top of their game, he said, and all that sort of stuff. So lovely. Yeah, lovely.
Do you get a reaction when you walk out of the theatre? Do people react to you as though you're Frank Morgan?
Yeah, we get quite a bit of that. Yeah, it's and then they sit down talking to you. They're like, I can't believe you're so nice. Yeah, so you get that. Yeah.
You do all of this yourself, though. I know you've paid tribute to some of the amazing people that you work with and the actors as well. Yeah. All of this, you basically a writer, actor, producer, director, tour manager. You're doing all of this yourself. You're obviously enjoying doing it, but it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. It's a hell of a lot of work. And I'm fortunate enough that I do enjoy all that kind of thing, which is probably what keeps the fire kindling, keeps it burning. But I've now got a magnificent studio space, which is literally 5 minutes walk away from my house, 24-hour access, huge art studio space. And that's my back cave. I've got my writer's desk set up in there. I've got Wi-Fi. I've got everything I need so I can communicate and get onto the theatres and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I probably spend more time in there than I do at home. And it's a lot of time in there. Yeah.
How does your painting fit in with it? Does it have any relationship to your theatre work at all?
Well, yeah, I've started only recently, past year or so, started painting characters from Paradise Heights. I mean, at the end of the day, there's that many characters. You could do 2 packs of playing cards, and each card's a character from Paradise Heights. And I thought, well, I'm going to start painting these characters with a view that maybe one day there will be a pack of Paradise Heights cards, or whatever. But I do like to paint a lot, and Paradise Heights is definitely leaking in there, yeah, for sure, yeah.
And you're already thinking of merchandising.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why not? Again, and this my artwork again coupled with Darren McGinn's expertise from a digital point of view. We've even got a digital short film. Frank Morgan's in it. The night death put me down, and it's based on a poem that I wrote about Frank Morgan, as it were, where Frank in this fantasy dying sequence or whatever is taking on the devil in a graveyard.
Yeah.
And it's a really strong thing. We did it for Halloween, kind of. It was an opportunity for Darren to have a go at his brilliant animation skills and base them on characters that I'd drawn, and then he took it from there. And I wrote this poem, The Night Death Put Me Down, quite a good piece, and I ended up doing a voice version of it. And there's a really great digital representation of me in the film, wielding the hammer of the Frank Morgan long coat. It's a very red and black film set in this graveyard, just him and the devil there, and all hell's breaking loose. Frank's come up from the grave. About Halloween, like this weird, and it looks great. It looks great, and again, Justin Weatherall composed the music and the sound effects for it, and it's a really nice little piece. I'll send you a link. Let him look.
Yeah, you don't seem to be somebody who suffers from any kind of writer's block or artistic block, or certainly not at the moment.
No, very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. I've not got enough time. I need another 3 clones of me so that we can all be doing our bit, because there's just not enough time. The time I've got left, there's not enough time. This is the thing that not went back to my dad, when I lost my dad.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've not got enough time to tell the stories I want. I need to get cracking, and I need to get them out there. So yeah.
So where are you going next? I mean, you've got Paradise Heights, but you've already taken a step outside Paradise Heights with Blaine Manor. So what direction are you thinking of going in next?
Well, the interesting thing about taking that step outside and writing something that wasn't connected to Tales from Paradise Heights was meant to be a challenge. I thought, right, what can I do? And I've wrote a play, and the play, as you know, has gone down my lips and everywhere we've been. So I've been writing the treatment for an 8-part series of The Haunting of Blaine Manor. So that's where I'm going next. I've got 4 episodes written already, with a view to meeting the right person that's going to go, yeah, let's add this. And I think London will be key this year. I've got 2 shows coming up in September at the Arts Depot in London, which I'm intending to use to invite all the right people to from London. It's kind of going to be a bit of a loss leader, as it were. I mean, there will be audiences, of course, will be invited as well, every kind of audience. But a lot of the seats I'll be giving away there will be free to people within media, within TV production companies, theatre production companies. Come and have a look at this, that kind of thing with it. It's a shop window. That's what I'm using London for. And I obviously want to get into the bigger theatres. I'll be perfectly honest with you, David, if this play, and this isn't being unrealistic at all, if this play gets into the West End, it's one of those that will have a long run.
Yeah.
I might not be in it. It'll be a cast that will be picked, and the producers will be those producers that have those West End runs. But it's one of those that will stay there for a while, and people will get a big kick out of it. Tourists, they'll make some producer out there. Have a look at this. You're going to make a fortune. Come on. The Haunting of Blaine Manor. Yeah. So that's what I'm aiming. But at the same time, I'm having a lot of fun on that road.
Yeah.
Doing it, yeah. Tales from Paradise Heights has always been written for theatre because you get reviews quicker from theatre. You get quicker turnaround. But Tales from Paradise Heights is a TV series waiting to happen. It's full of eclectic character situations, a vibrant community. a run-down vibrant community shot through with a strong vein of the supernatural. It's all there. So yes, producers, have a look at this as well.
That was Joe O'Byrne, whose plays The Haunting of Blaine Manor and The Bench are currently touring, with Diane's Deli, Strawberry Jack and I'm Frank Morgan Rewired to follow shortly. For more information on all of Joe's work for stage, screen and canvas, see www.talesfromparadiseheights.com and also check out his YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@JoeO'Byrne, that's JoeObyrne 2964.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.